Sleep Forever, Jeff the Killer Reimagined. Somewhere in eastern Illinois, in the year 19XX, head scientist Dr. Bill Cement sits behind a camera to disclose his operations, along with his assistant, Dr. Jonathan Rose. With the help of the United States government, Cement bribed the head of an orphanage to relocate to a much larger location on the terms of allowing his team of scientists to experiment on the children. However, the new location is nothing more than a small, renovated hotel that had been previously abandoned. The scientists' facilities are located at the 3 highest floors, while the rest of the building houses the children and staff. Entry number 1. Good evening. Dr. Cement speaking. At the time of this recording, I have nearly completed the mission I was assigned to by the U.S. government. They've named this project Operation World Peace. Why, you may ask? Well, the very simplified answer is because this experiment, if performed correctly, could potentially lead to the end of all wars around the globe as we know it. I know, you probably have a great deal of questions, but rest assured, they will all be answered soon enough. You see, the United States has always dreamed of being the peacekeepers of the world, but as we all know, that simply isn't possible, and all these wars are proof of that. However, there is one way to bring about world peace, and that is fear. Think about it. If the world fears what could happen if they were to wage war, then no wars would be started at all. He is then interrupted by Dr. Rose. Sir, you're kind of dragging on. Oh, right. I'll get to my point now. Not long after I released a paper that, long story short, stated that a genetically modified virus could be created to essentially make fatal familial insomnia a contagious disease, since it is a prion disease caused by a mutation of the prion protein gene, the government must have been so impressed that they assigned me to make that theory a reality. After a few months of prep, I had finally obtained the resources needed. First, they bought off a failing hotel as my house of operations. Next, I got to work right away thanks to the help of some lab rats. Evidently, it was a success. I then named this new disease the justifiable evil flu. Once infected, the rats were unable to ever sleep again, eventually causing death. Luckily, I also succeeded in creating a vaccine which not only cures the infected, but even provides total immunity. This was only a minor variant though, one that could only pass with direct contact with the infected. But with enough time, a new airborne variant could happen in the near future. And now we've come full circle. With this flu at our disposal, we can give the vaccine to our allies and use it against the enemies. Once the world sees how dangerous this bioweapon is, they'll be too afraid to start any conflicts such as acts of terror. The best part is that while this might seem even worse than nuclear warheads, it is still much safer, as it does no collateral damage and it can be contained. But I'm getting a little ahead of myself. I know this works on rats, but I have no idea if it will work on humans, so the next step shall be to find human test subjects, which I have already found. As to how I managed to do so, well, sorry, that's classified. The next entry after this one will be a progress update. Let's hope it all goes well. And cut, said Dr. Rose. Dr. Cement then walks up to him and says, "Thank you, but a warning. Don't ever interrupt me while I'm in the middle of my recordings again. Understood, Dr. Scraggy?" "Oh, yes, sir. My apologies." "Good. Now, I'm going to look over each subject's file and determine which would be the best suited for this experiment. You stand by and be ready with Mother Valekia when I finally do." "Yes, sir," replied Dr. Rose. However, when Cement sees that Rose is just glaring at him, he then says, "On second thought, why don't you go and eat a sandwich or something? You look like you'd lose a brawl against a child." Yes, sir. Thank you." Cement then looks over the children's files until he finds one that interests him. 17-year-old Jeffrey Gardner. The file states that when Jeff was a child, a burglar broke into his home, stabbed him in the stomach, and then brutally murdered his parents and younger brother. The case has been cold ever since, along with Jeff never speaking about it. Nearly an adult, won't be missed by anyone, and keeps to himself. This kid is perfect. Dr. Cement then summons Mother Valekia and asks her to have Jeff ready. Entry number 2. Dr. Cement speaking. We managed to find the perfect test subject for the justifiable evil flu, Jeffrey Gardner. Standing at 5'8" and weighing 155 pounds, Jeff is just the right size for the job. After signing some paperwork, we put him in a makeshift testing facility. Outside this hotel is a fairly good-sized garage that's been modified by placing a see-through wall in the middle with a secure door, along with security cameras to monitor him at all times. Jeff has everything he needs to feel comfortable, including a bed, a television, a bathroom complete with a stall, and some art supplies. Once he got settled in, we went ahead with injecting him with the flu. Now I know what you're probably thinking, and no, this is not airborne. Remember, we created a lesser variant that can only be transmitted via direct contact, such as exchange of bodily fluids. We made sure of it. Should this succeed in what we want it to do, we can move on to the ultimate and final step, creating the airborne variant. Only time will tell if this experiment will be a success, but I'll be sure to make another entry within a week. Wish us luck! Entry number 3. Dr. Cement speaking. After 3 days, Jeff had shown no visible changes in behavior and overall health. But within 6 days, when my assistant checked in on him, Jeff exclaimed that it's getting harder and harder for him to sleep, as well as a slight headache. And the day after, claimed that he couldn't sleep at all. This is excellent. Just 1 more week of examination and we can move on with the airborne variant. Now, we may not yet be equipped to safely test it, but once the higher-ups see how much we've progressed, we should be able to get higher budget with much more resources. I'll keep you posted in the next entry. Entry number 4. Dr. Cement speaking. It has now been 10 days in total, and Jeff is yet to sleep. However, I can't help but feel a bit puzzled about his behavior. Rather than acting unruly or hostile like I hypothesized, he remains calm and spends his time watching television or using the scissors we provided for him to cut paper into unique shapes. What worries me, though, is what my assistant told me. He says he has trouble sleeping and fears he might have contracted the flu, but I assure him that it's simply stress from working hard on this project. Besides, he has done nothing to get himself infected. The most he's done is enter the chamber, bring him food, and take his temperature. That is all. Anyway, we have come a long way. I've decided to give him the day off and sent him back to his room. Oh, I forgot to mention. My scientists and all other staff members have their own personal room in the hotel. I figured it would be easier this way. I'll be sure to report back whenever I can. Goodbye for now. Entry number 5. Dr. Cement speaking. 3 days have passed since my last entry, and Jeff is no longer willing to cooperate with us. He won't let my assistant take blood samples, give us urine samples, or even to take his temperature. But he does, however, make it well known how insomnia has drastically taken a toll on his mental and physical health. He is constantly screaming and moaning in agony. His skin has gotten noticeably paler. He has become increasingly violent and destructive, such as tearing apart his bed and pillow with scissors, complaining about having a severe migraine, and begging to be let out, or even for someone to kill him. As if things couldn't get any worse, the children in the hotel have been misbehaving out of the blue. Mother Valekia told me she has sent almost all 57 kids to the timeout room, but that gave me an idea. I told Rose to tell Jeff that if he continues being difficult, we will send him there. Of course, we can't actually send him there, but anything to get him to comply. Just when things were going so well, 2 steps back have been taken. But fret not, this problem can easily be solved. After all, we made it this far. I'll see you in the next entry. Later, Gators. Dr. Rose later tells Dr. Cement that Jeff had no reaction to being warned about being sent to the timeout room, but he simply replies that Jeff will break eventually, as no child is unafraid of being disciplined. Not long after, alone Rose looks at the security cameras and sees Jeff face down on the floor with a small puddle of blood near him. Rose panics and rushes over to him without telling anyone. As Rose enters Jeff's chamber, Jeff, still face down, tells him, "I'm fine. Trust me, I'm fine. I promise I will do whatever you want me to. But first, please look under my pillow on my bed. It's a surprise, and I swear it's important." Rose says okay and goes to have a look. What he finds under it is a piece of paper that appears to be a self-portrait of Jeff with exposed teeth, bulging eyes, and a Glasgow-scarred smile. And what lies underneath it is Jeff's eyelids and upper lower lip. As Rose's jaw drops in horror, he hears a sinister, maniacal voice saying,
"Hey, that wasn't a surprise."
Before pointed scissors get stabbed into his abdomen by Jeff. Just as Rose turned around. Rose tries to overpower Jeff, but Jeff removes the weapon and gouges both of his eyes out with the open scissors. With Rose crouched down in pain, Jeff finishes him off by stabbing him repeatedly on his spine. Jeff then lets out a crazed laugh before turning his attention to the security cameras. Looking into each of them, Jeff cuts all their wires with the scissors. Once the deed was done, he escapes outside, where the heavy rain pelts down on his mutilated face.
Refreshing. But not as refreshing as playing fun and games.
Jeff explores the backyard of the hotel and stumbles upon an old shed. Once opened, Jeff's bloodshot eyes light up as he sees 3 different gardening tools. He places all in a nearby potato sack and notices another tool on the floor.
A machete? Nah, too easy.
Jeff heads to the back door of the building, ready to commit more carnage.
Timeout room, was it? I can't wait to have some playmates. But I guess adults can play with me and my toys on the way. Now, time to play gardener.
Inside the first floor, 2 nuns are having a conversation about all the children now having insomnia before spotting Jeff in the hallway. They approach him while asking questions, but freeze once Jeff turns around. Jeff takes out a pair of shears, opens them, and stabs one of the nuns through her eyes. After pulling them out, he leers at the second one.
Come here. I'm just gonna take a little off the top.
She tries to run away, but Jeff catches up to her and closes the shears all around her neck. As she struggles, Jeff tries to decapitate her, but has no luck. Screw it! Jeff yells out in frustration, and then places his foot on her back and pulls the shears away, severing several arteries. As she lays slowly bleeding, Jeff tells her,
Hey, sorry about that. I guess I didn't sharpen them enough. But I guess you don't mind too much, mostly because you'll be dead in about, 30 seconds. Anyways, just go to sleep, and hopefully you can get up in the morning.
Jeff runs to the building stairs and enters the second floor.
I hope I won't disappoint my next playmates.
Jeff then unscrews the bolt from the shears, dividing it in 2, and approaches 3 orphanage staff members in the middle of the hallway. With a blade in each hand, Jeff stabs the first one in the stomach, then stabs another through the mouth and out the back of his head. As he removes both blades, the third man grabs him from behind, but Jeff stabs both of his thighs. Once free from the man's grasp, Jeff pulls out the blades and runs them through the top of the man's head.
Silly rabbit. Those sneaky tricks are for kids.
Jeff then makes his way to the stairs and enters the 3rd floor, where 2 men immediately spot him. Jeff charges at them with a hatchet in hand and throws it, striking one of the men in the forehead. Jeff then takes out an axe from the sack and swings it at the remaining staff member. However, the man dodges every swing and eventually tackles Jeff to the ground.
These toys aren't fun anymore.
Jeff breaks free by biting the man's nose before using the axe to swing down on the man's head. but soon after, the other man, still with the hatchet lodged into his head, gets up.
Oh, you gotta be kidding me!
Jeff delivers a killing blow by hitting the hatchet with the axe, driving it deeper into his skull.
I'm done playing gardener. I need some new toys.
Jeff enters the fourth floor and makes his way towards the hotel's kitchen. Once inside, he sees an elderly janitor cleaning the oven.
Too old to play, so I think I'll just put this geezer to sleep.
Jeff sneaks up on him and then begins slamming the oven's door repeatedly on the man's head until his arms get tired. Afterwards, Jeff looks around until he finds a large assortment of kitchen knives.
Oh yeah, I feel like a kid in a candy store.
Jeff collects as many as his bag can carry and then hides once he hears security guards running around the floor's hallway.
They must be looking for me. I guess word got out fast. Shame. I wanted to surprise everyone, but I guess we've got some spoilers.
Jeff then waits until the guards leave the floor and enters the fifth floor.
How convenient. This is the pathway that leads me to the finish line.
Jeff spots Mother Valekia speaking to a security guard and a nun. Not long after he's discovered, the guard runs up towards him. Jeff then gets 2 paring knives and stabs the guard on both sides of his head before giving chase to the fleeing woman. As he's gaining on one, he leaps forward and jabs both knives into her back.
You can keep those as a parting gift.
Just as Valekia is about to escape, Jeff throws a metal cleaver to her back, to which she falls on the floor. As he approaches her, she begs him not to do this, to which he replies with,
Tell you what, I'll help you if you tell me where I can find the head honcho in charge of turning me into his own personal lab rat.
She tells him Dr. Cement is usually in the very top floor.
Ah, top floor, you say? Thank you very much, Mother Superior. Oh, and here, let me help you.
Jeff then raises his foot and stomps on the cleaver, killing her.
By putting you out of your misery.
Jeff then enters the timeout room, a large room that was to be made into a makeshift quarantine chamber. All 57 children turn their attention to Jeff.
Look, I've never been good at giving speeches, so just pick up a toy from my bag and follow me. I'll show you all how to have a hell of a time.
The children take a few seconds to process what they have just heard, but eventually they each grab a weapon of their choosing and Jeff leads them on their way to the top floor. On their way, the bloodshed goes from bad to worse as he and his new followers slaughter everyone in their sights. One child stabs a man in his leg, while another leaps onto his back and stabs his neck and face. Another slashes a man's leg, and while on the ground, at least a dozen more children surround him, each taking turns driving their knives into him like a pincushion, and many more victims suffering a similar fate. After a gruesome killing spree, they arrive at the final floor. Entry number 6. Dr. Cement speaking. After 2 weeks, I can say this experiment was a little too much of a success. Even though I never meant for this flu to be highly contagious just yet, against all odds, it became airborne. I have no idea how this could have happened, but as of right now, it has spread from Jeff to Dr. Rose to now possibly every single individual in the hotel. If this goes on, who knows how far the disease will spread to the outside world. Luckily, I have a cure. You didn't think I would create such a dangerous bioweapon before I had a way to counteract it, did you? Now, All I have to do is administer it to all staff members and children, and we can go straight to delivering the finished product to the... Hey, what's with all the ruckus out there? Just a moment. I have to go see what all the fuss is about. Cement then opens his office's door, to which he sees the remaining scientists either running for their lives or being brutally murdered.
Ah, you must be this Dr. Cement I've been hearing so much about,
said Jeff as he slowly approaches the shell-shocked doctor. Good God, what the hell are you?
Oh, that's right. You don't recognize me. Must be my new makeover.
Cement then comes to a horrifying realization. What? Jeff? That's you?
Ding, ding, ding. That's right. I'm Jeff. Your lab rat. Your test monkey. Your little guinea pig.
Cement tries to lock himself in his office, but Jeff stops him before he could even close the door. Jeff, please, just put the knife down. I have a cure. I can fix you. I can fix all of you.
Why would we want to be fixed? There's nothing wrong with us. If anything, we're having more fun this way. And we never want to worry about this waste of time known as sleep again.
Cement is backed into the large glass windows of the office. Jeff, come on. Be reasonable here. You don't want to kill me.
Kill you? I'm not gonna kill you. In fact, I wanted to reward you. My way of saying thanks for helping me and my new friends come out of our shells.
But Jeff, think about your family. Think of the way your parents and little brother were brutally murdered. If you kill me, you'll be no better than the deranged lunatic that got away. Jeff then appears to be caught off guard by what Cement just said.
Huh? I had completely forgotten about that. I seriously can't believe you all bought that story I made up all those years ago.
What? Story? What story?
There was no deranged lunatic, Doc. I was a killer.
Hearing that revelation made Cement the most shocked he has ever been in his entire life. What? No, impossible. How could you?
With a knife, duh.
No, I mean, how could such a quiet and timid boy like you commit such a heinous act? You were so young.
Oh, that was just a front I made. If the cops saw me as myself, I'd be in prison right now. No one ever suspects the quiet kid.
Dr. Cement tries to speak, but the words won't come out.
But enough chit-chat. Time for your reward. And your reward is?
Jeff then charges at Cement and pushes him out of the window, where he falls to his death.
Being able to sleep forever.
Jeff then exits the office where he meets with his fellow infected children.
You know, at first, I just wanted to go to sleep. But now, I don't ever want to sleep again. Who's with me?
Every single child cheers him on, where they then follow him out of the building, to parts unknown. Breaking news! A growing epidemic of insomnia has spread throughout half the country. No one has any clue as to how this is even possible, but scientists have theorized this to be an outbreak of a new unknown disease. We'll be sure to keep you posted once some more info becomes available to the public. 10 days since the first report of the flu. This is Channel 4 News at 10. The unknown insomnia sickness has now spread to almost all of the United States, along with reports of cases in neighboring countries such as Mexico, Canada, Cuba, even parts of Portugal, Spain, and the United Kingdom. Only time will tell if this very contagious disease can be contained or potentially become a major pandemic. 15 days since the first report of the flu. This is Channel 5 News. The CDC has reported finding the original source of the insomnia flu in an abandoned building and have officially stated this was a bioweapon made by a terrorist organization, although no further comment has been made on what the next course of action will be. 20 days since the first report of the flu. This is Channel 23 News with a major update on insomnia flu. An alleged whistleblower has come forward saying this flu was not a terrorist organization's doing, but a government-funded program to purposely create a weapon for biological warfare, even claiming a cure had been made. At this time, it is unclear if this whistleblower is even credible, or even if this cure had indeed been made. 1 month after the first report of the flu. This is Channel 8 News reporting live within a secure location. There appears to be no end in sight to this flu. Half the world has now been affected with no answers or countermeasurements. To make matters worse, insomnia-stricken patients have turned to destruction and anarchy. No one appears to be safe. Not government officials, not soldiers, not even the scientists tasked with stopping this disease. We are all in God's hands now. Pray that God either saves us from this madness or brings us all to his kingdom. Signing off, and God bless everyone.